Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for joining us again here today for another episode of Islamic Learning with Masjid As-Sabur. I have held over my sister, Gloria Wadud. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm glad you could stay. We're going to be talking today on social ills and solutions. One of the things that I think is very dear to your heart and clearly very dear to mine is this is also not only a faith-based issue for me, but it's also my profession in dealing with young people and social ills. We like to open up, as we always do, with Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. And that is, I seek refuge in God from the rejected Satan. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us along the straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, not those who earn your anger, nor those who go astray. Ameen. Well, welcome back, sister. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Walaikum assalam.
So, before we get into the other social ills, I wanted you to have the opportunity to let people know who may be inspired by this show and what you've had to say, and they may want to participate or donate in some shape, form, or fashion. How can they help you? In what is this, 5?
Okay, yeah.
House the Homeless 5?
Yeah, House the
So
Homeless
how can they be a
5.
part of House the Homeless number 5?
Well, since I started the fundraiser on Facebook, that's pretty much where you can go and donate if you want to, or go and see updates. So my Facebook name is my name, Gloria Wadud.
Okay.
I actually have 2 pages. It's Gloria Wadud, one page, and the other page is She-Rock Loves God.
Okay.
So anyway, you can go on either one of those pages and you'll see the link to the House the Homeless. You'll see how much is donated. You'll see the news reports, because on 3 different occasions, News, Channel 13 News and Channel 4 News came out and did an interview with me about this House the Homeless Part 3. So I included the little news clips on the site so you can see them. The giveaway is going to be probably somewhere around February 20th. Because I set the fundraiser, the end date for February 8th, so people will donate until February 8th, and I'll shut it down. Whatever I have, like I said in my last program, I already got $2,000, so it's going to be more, so we'll get more stuff.
So will viewers, just say I'm watching.
Right.
I'm watching the show. I don't have a lot of money to give.
Right.
But I would still like to help. Will that date and location be on Facebook?
It will be on Facebook. I'll keep blasting it, keep letting you know.
Where I can come and help
and you
pass it out.
please, yes, and we
Okay.
always meet here. We
Okay.
always meet here. I'll pick a date. So if I say February 20th, we'll meet here at 10 o'clock. And
Okay.
however many volunteers we have, we'll each 2 people together. We never send nobody out by themselves. 2 people together will take 20 or so tents. These 2 people will take 20 or so, and they'll all go to different locations. So yes, we need all hands on deck. And I promise, I said on our last one, How's the Homeless Part 4, I said I'm never gonna give out tents and sleeping bags without having food, because the last person we gave the sleeping bag to, he said, "You got any food in there?" And that broke my heart.
Wow.
So we're always gonna have food. So we need all hands on deck, because they're gonna get the sleeping bag or the tent, and they'll have food. And usually we give toiletries. So
Okay.
yes, we need as many volunteers as possible.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Which means praise God.
Mhm.
So when you're out there, I know homeless has been your passion. It's been the movement with you. but what are some of the other social ills that you are seeing that are plaguing our community, and that you think we could have a role in at least, bringing some solutions to, and bringing some relief to these people,
Right,
or some, at least, and if it's that dire, instilling some hope where
right,
there's nothing but despair.
right. Well, you had talked about it and you had mentioned about us killing each other.
Right.
Young kids fast to guns. When we was going out, you're much younger than me, but when I was coming up, if people had a disagreement, they fought it out. There wasn't no pulling guns. These kids have been to more funerals. Man, until I was maybe 21, the only funeral I went to was my grandmother's.
Right.
These kids go to funerals every week, every week, every week. They're shooting. It's like, okay, I worked with probation department for 17 years, and prior to that, I worked in group homes, lots of group homes
Right.
on the East Coast, on this coast. So I've always, before the homeless thing, I've always worked with youth, troubled youth, at-risk youth, and the boys especially, they think it's like a badge of honor if they live past 21. They're not expecting to live past 21. How do you go through life thinking that your life is going to be over before 21, and if you make it to 21, you did good? Really? And a lot of them think like that. I'm not talking about one or two, I'm talking about out of 10, 8 of them feel that they won't make it to 21. So we have to change that. We have to let them value life and empathy. Empathy is missing, and I don't know how to instill empathy into people. It's a cognitive thinking thing. I don't even know where to begin to change the thinking. And another thing is I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but we're talking about kids. So as far as the females, the human trafficking. The human trafficking and the young girls prostituting themselves. They don't think of them. They don't hold themselves at high esteem. I just see a lot of things on Facebook, on social media, where they're twerking and half dressed and whatnot. Come on, we're queens. We're beautiful. We're the mother of society. God created us beautiful. We're a jewel. And they're not seeing themselves like that. Their self-esteem is real low. They're not expecting to be treated like the queens that they are. So we need to change their thinking. We need to change the thinking. And I don't know how to start. We just got to gather them together, and I don't know, show examples.
I think we start one at a time. Definitely the best dawah, the best example is your own walk.
Example, right.
So it might not necessarily be the conversational piece, but first being an example. But I will say this, and I don't know how you're going to receive this, but I will say this, that I believe that the responsibility is twofold, and I believe it's a shared responsibility, because myself being a young man growing up, there was a certain female that I was trying to impress when I was living this particular lifestyle. And so nowadays what you see is that you see that the guy, and I know your era was probably different, my era was probably more similar to yours than it is to this era today, where you had to have some money in order to, really consider yourself to be doing something. And now, unfortunately, they want you to have a body. They want you to have, you're not cool unless you shot someone. And so that's definitely one of the most, for us, of course, it's one of the most strangest things, but it's one of the most depressing and damning things and debilitating things for us as a people.
Right.
Because now when you hear gunshots or when you see it on the news or whatever, you know that we're weakened as a people, and that this is continuing,
Right.
that we're continuing to be weakened as a people as we continue this self-hatred.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Right.
And that's what it is. And we're all up in arms when a white cop kills a black person, and we should be. But we're not up in arms when JoJo kills Buddy over here, and it's like 12 different kids that died within 3 months on your neighborhood. We're not up in arms about that. Ain't nobody out protesting that and walking the yard. And the jail thing, that's another thing. It's a badge of honor. Yeah, I've been to jail, man. I did time. Really?
Right.
You know, and it's stagnating because once you get that black mark, then it's hard to get a job. It's hard. People look at you like a criminal. It's hard to get that off of you. It really is. And they don't realize it. They just don't realize how hard they're making their future. Eventually, God willing, they're going to grow up. They're going to grow up and they're going to become responsible, productive members of society and have a wife and a home and stuff. And all of this stuff sets you back when you have that record, when you can't get credit because you never had a job because you're busy out on the street shooting and selling drugs and stuff. So we have to educate the youth. We have to educate them.
So I think that's one of the issues that I think we need to delve into, and also be proactive in bringing some changes to our educational system. For me, the question to me that always crosses my mind is, why aren't life skills in our public school system? Like, why can't I have a fight and all you do for me is you send me home for 3 days,
Right,
and I'm expected to come back and be okay. Like you send me back home to, which more than likely is a environment where I'm being impacted by trauma, whether it's direct trauma or vicarious trauma on a daily basis.
Right.
So I have this situation, but I don't get no treatment. I don't get any therapy. I don't get any anger management, any emotional intelligence, any conflict resolution. I'm acting out and I'm crying out for help, probably through my actions,
Right.
and whether it be violent acts or just me misbehaving. But whatever, me being punished is not going to correct this.
Not addressing
behavior.
the problem.
It's not
Exactly.
addressing the underlying causes.
Exactly.
And they say things like, which reminds me of Surah 90 in the city of Alad, where it talks about in the prelude to that is that how our parent city actually acts as a parent. And I don't think we understand that, where your environment plays a particular role in participating in your upbringing.
That's right.
It's always about, well, you should learn that in the home.
Right.
Well, how difficult is that for a single parent? And that's a whole other issue, but it is something that we need to be more mindful of, in understanding that this is a partnership.
Right.
You know, we can't decide to have a child and then you go your way and I go my way.
Right.
And we don't look at this as we're both investing in raising this child. And then we already know economically, you may be working a job, I'm working a job. It's like, how much time do we have to invest in our child when we're combating some of the things that you mentioned in regards to the music, the movies,
right,
and then what I'm seeing in my everyday environment.
right.
So yeah, we're not being taught, and a lot of it is an extension of slavery. And in Surah 90, it talks about that. It's fakul raqabah, when you talk about the freeing of the neck, the freeing of the bondman, where what we know is in from a spiritual realm, we can be slave to so much. It's more than just physical bondage.
Right.
You can be a slave.
Your mind, that's right.
Right, to whatever it is, addiction,
Right.
sex, drugs,
Yep.
so many different things that you can be enslaved by. And we don't think about these, especially if you're spiritually malnourished. And so it's so easy for us to follow. And the next thing you know, we're following, we're spiritually malnourished, and so we don't value ourselves. And you already know, if I don't value myself,
Right.
there's no way I can value you.
Right, exactly. And that's a big part of why we have so many children out there and kids out there not spiritually aware. When I was coming up, I was born in the 50s. Church every Sunday. I wasn't Muslim at that time. church every Sunday. That was your parents instilled that in you. I don't care what you did during the week. You went to school, blah, blah, but you went to church every day. You sat down together and ate dinner. Nowadays, everybody eats at different times. There's no family connection. There's
Right.
no spiritual. Nobody's teaching them about God. And like you said about the one of single parent, there's plenty of single parents who raise good kids and the kids are doing fine. But it's hard. It takes work and you have to invest in your child. They have to be first. It's just hard. Even with two people and two incomes, the father working, the mother, it's still hard. But you have to invest time into your kids. You have to know where they're going, who they're hanging out with. They have to have a curfew. They have to have these things. So, oh boy, there's books. If I want to know about math, there's a math book. If I want to know a word, I go to a dictionary. There's no real book on parenting. You have to go from what you know. So if you had messed up parents, I'm sorry, but if you had parents who wasn't on their job, really, you're going to be them when you have kids. So, and the cycle continues. I mean, a lot of the kids who came in and out of the system at juvenile hall, wow, that you
Right.
can see why, you understand why, and it's really almost not their fault, but then it's our job to take up. They say it takes a village, but it's really hard to re-raise somebody. So you start raising kids, you start raising them as soon as they can walk. Oh, don't touch that. No, I said no. That's how you start raising a kid, from that little. So when you get a kid and he's 15, 16, he's already got the values and the morals that his parent or lack thereof, whoever, guardian, instilled in him and whatnot. It's hard to take that kid and say, look, sit down, baby. This is not how it's done. And just reprogram. But they can be, because kids are sponges. They suck it up. They just like a sponge. So if you give them, it's just if they accept it. So you have to have a certain way with kids. You have to be able to reach them. So we really need to talk to the youth. We need to bring the youth in here. They just need to know about God. Everybody knows about the physical and the mental. And a lot of people don't know about the spiritual.
Right. I think we are those three components that you just mentioned, and you have to nurture all three of them
Yeah,
if you want to be complete. But also, this is a partnership. So I think we've accepted the fact that we can raise a good kid with one parent, but there's voids that need to be filled. And whether it's an uncle or a grandfather or an auntie, or if the mother is missing or the grandmother, I think all these voids have to be filled in regards to making that child complete and that child whole.
Right.
So there's not anything missing.
Right, and
In
the
their
streets
upbringing.
or the peers won't fill that void instead of
Exactly.
right. So I'm with you there too, yup.
Yeah. I was thinking about we learn from our mistakes. Some of the mistakes that I've made is trying to talk to these young men and women in their environment where they're most impacted by trauma. I can think right off the top of my head, I was talking to a young man, and we were positioned at this park where there's a dice game going on over here, there's a drug sale going on over here, and there's an argument going on over here. So he's looking around,
Right.
I'm looking around, but I'm also trying to tell him something good that can get him to have that trying to plant the seeds of him having a paradigm shift
Right.
and changing the way that he thinks and the way that he's choosing to live his life and to value his freedom
Right.
and his life. But he's worried about that right now. Right, because of his environment. Right. And so I think one of the things that we can do is invest not only our time, but our resources. Get them out of that environment where they can be someplace where it's safe and show them something new. We call that transformative travel in our work. And it allows them to decompress and to exhale and to really be receptive to whatever it is we're trying to impart with them, something we're trying to share with them.
Right.
Another thing is just the simple things that they need, whether it's a driver's license, a social security
How to
card.
fill out a job application.
Exact, the
Right.
soft skills.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I've made that mistake before. Taking a youngster, getting him a job when he was not ready to
for it.
come
Mhm.
from the street life into the workforce.
Right.
But all these things we can provide resources from. They have job training. They have all these different resources and services that they're not willing to take because they already feel like they've been ostracized and outcast from this, because whether it's due to their having a record, a criminal record,
Mhm.
or this just being what's out there. Oh,
Right.
once you get into trouble, no one's gonna hire you,
That's it, right.
and that's not necessarily always true.
Mhm.
And what we have to do is get them in a position where they can see that these things are possible. But those are just some of the things that I see in on top of the daily check-ins, just checking in on and letting them know you care about them,
Right.
even when they don't, they're distrustful of that.
Right.
You
they
have to
are.
be consistent. Yeah.
It's a shame, and it's hard, and almost unfortunate, and definitely unfortunately, but the only time that you can get them to sit them down to reach them out of that environment is when they get in trouble. You know how many times I've been at work at juvenile hall and I have a parent call, say, look, my child, she won't listen to me. She goes out when she wants to. She sneaks. She's smoking. I think she's smoking that herb stuff. She's blah, blah, blah. What can I do? And there's nothing, we have nothing in place to help this mother until the girl commits a crime or gets in trouble. That's sad. That is really sad. So that was in Alameda County in Oakland. I don't know what's happening in Sacramento. I don't know if there's any resources for an incorrigible youth because she hasn't committed any crime. She's just not listening to her parents. She goes in when she wants to, comes out when she wants to. She got a boyfriend that the mother don't like, not listening to any rules, no curfew, no nothing. What do you do with that?
So here in Sacramento, they have sister to sister, they have brother to brother, they have a Black Child Legacy campaign.
Good.
You have it. Of course, you have Advanced Peace Organization of Sacramento,
Right, good.
which I'm the strategy program manager and director of.
Good.
We just have so many different. You have SAC Act, and of course, while we're here, we have several masjids and churches that need to step up.
Right.
So
Right.
we need to step up. We need to be in these spaces because one of the things that troubles me most is I have conflict resolution. I have emotional intelligence. I have a plethora of different forms of anger management, anger management, denial management, all the life skills that one needs.
Right.
As a young person where I'm trying to figure these things out, and I'm impulsive and irrational and I'm just lashing out, because whatever the case, my frontal lobe isn't fully developed.
Whatever, right,
Yeah,
right.
different parts of the brain, I have all these going on. I'm being triggered because
Right.
I'm impacted by trauma, and you're trying to tell me something isn't actually happening, but it's real for me.
Right.
And this is actually happening. All these things I got while I was in prison. So
Deep, yes.
why aren't these services available here?
And before you get in trouble, before
Exactly.
you get to that step.
Exactly.
Right.
And out here it costs money.
Wow.
Costs money to get most of the things that I just alluded to.
Right.
And we need to make these things readily available to our children in the inner cities, because we know they can get therapy, when they're impacted by trauma in the more affluent communities.
Even if we did, so say like we donated, so just like you're saying, and we need these resources, we need these little classes, trauma informed and all of that. Say we opened up Masjid As-Sabur and we had one of those classes. How do we get them to come? That's the whole big thing, getting them to leave their comfort zone, because believe me, that war zone out there where the drugs is being sold, where they're arguing over there, where it's all partying and short shirts and stuff, that's their comfort zone. How do you snatch them from there and bring them to the place where they can get the resources, even if somebody else was paying for it?
So we're talking about saving lives, and that's one of the beautiful things that I love about our new governor, Gavin Newsom, is he's not really caught up in the stats, but more so caught up in what's effective and what's going to save lives. And if we're talking about just getting some pizza and buying a brother or sister a pair of shoes,
Right. You're right. That'll draw
investing,
them in. That's
right?
right. That would draw them
and, it's,
in.
and the play on words is that for us, we know this is an investment, and it's going to pay great
Big
dividends.
That's right. That's right.
And other people, the opposers, the opposition is going to say that we're bribing the kids to get them here and all that.
Whatever
And
it
we
takes.
set up
We just
goals,
wanna
whatever
get
it
'em
takes.
in. Yeah.
So yes,
Okay.
I'm all for it. I think we need to treat this as it is. It's an epidemic.
Yeah.
It's a crisis,
Yeah.
and we need to be getting out doing something. The same way they would if something was happening to all the cats in the neighborhood or the stray dogs.
Right.
It'd be an epidemic.
Right.
These are our children. So
Right.
with that being
These are our
said,
future because they're not going to always be kids. They're going to grow up to be us. So we got to reach them now. Good idea. Good.
yeah.
Well,
So
you're on the board.
I almost
sorry.
definitely no.
So,
I
yeah,
definitely
we'll
yeah.
bring
We're
this
gonna
up,
we're gonna do
inshallah.
something.
Good.
Definitely, and even though this is my profession and this is what I do every day, I believe that we need to make sure from a spiritual base, because we would like to believe, and I know this is true. We have more to offer than the average outreach worker.
Yeah, we do.
Just from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I really enjoyed having you, sister.
Man, I enjoyed being here.
I'm glad
Thank
you were able to stay for the
Thank
second
you.
show.
Yeah, me too.
And hopefully I can help you get out there for what is it, How's the Homeless Part 5.
Yeah, and I'm getting
Part
a date
5.
too. I think it's Saturday, February 15th is going to
Okay.
be the day that we distribute. That's the day that we all meet here at Masjid As-Sabur at 10 a.m. and we'll start the distribution. So good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you again for joining us here for another episode of Islamic Learning with Masjid As-Sabur. I'd like to thank again my esteemed colleague and my sister in faith, Gloria Wadu. Assalamu alaikum, sister. Thank you for coming and thank you for doing both shows.
Oh, man, thank you.
We're going to close out the way we normally do with Wal Asr. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal Asr. Inna insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati. Wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Ameen.